Welcome to the Career Ready Podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca Harrington. Later in today's episode, you'll hear my interview with Joan DiPiero, Community Engagement Coordinator at College of DuPage.
And I'm another one of your hosts, Michelle Malik. I'm going to start our episode today with some information about how to find volunteer opportunities on LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know what LinkedIn is, it's a professional social media page that's free to use. Typically, a lot of people that I've met with think LinkedIn can only be used to search for jobs, but there's really so much more to explore. Since our interview today is about volunteering, I'd like to talk about how you can use LinkedIn to find opportunities. So the first thing we'll be talking about is the Open To tab. This is going to let your network know if you're either trying to find a new job, if you're hiring for something, maybe you provide some sort of services, or what we'll be talking about today is finding volunteer opportunities.
I swear that must be new because I don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, I didn't know they had it either, so I'm glad we can talk about it today. So once we go to our profile, we can click Open To, and we'll go ahead and select Finding Volunteer Opportunities. And the first thing that pops up is a message about how it all works. So what you can do is you can pick the causes that you're interested in. You also want to select your skills and volunteer preferences. Additionally, there is a note about how nonprofit organizations will be able to search for you when they're looking for volunteers. So I think that's kind of helpful.
Yeah.
And lastly, you have your volunteer preferences displayed on your profile, or you can choose that option.
Mm-hmm.
We're first going to pick a cause or area of interest. So some options that pop up for me were animal welfare and the environment, veteran support. After we pick something that we're interested in, we can add our own skills. And I really want you to think about what your strengths are and how this could connect to your volunteer interests. We also have the option of choosing volunteer locations, so they give you on-site, remote, or hybrid. And also you want to pick, obviously, where you're going to volunteer.
Sure.
So I selected the greater Chicago area, but obviously any location is going to work here. So from there, you'll be able to post a message to your network that you're looking for volunteer opportunities, which I thought was really cool. You're putting a call out to your network.
Yes, put it out in the universe.
Exactly. Yep. So it depends on how private you want to be. So you can choose to post it to anyone on or off LinkedIn. You can also choose to share it with any groups that you've joined, or you can choose to share this message with your connections only. So that's really just up to you what you prefer. Additionally, you can look for opportunities on LinkedIn that match your interests and skills. So there's going to be a button that you can click on, and it'll give you some options from there.
How handy.
Right? I think sometimes it's hard to think off the top of your head, where can I go to volunteer or what opportunities are out there? So I'm glad that LinkedIn is just kind of doing the work for you.
Yes, absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to mention is there's also something called a company tab, and you can actually look for nonprofit organizations here too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So with the company tab, when you're signed in, the way you find it is you sign in, you go to your main page, and you'll see a search bar at the top where you can add your area of interest. So for example, if you're interested in health, you can put the word health, you can put animals, veterans, whatever you want to put there. And then once you click on the search button, the different tabs in LinkedIn will pop up. So there's like the jobs tab, the groups tab, and then you'll see company right there. And this is where you're going to start to filter through nonprofit organizations. So once you go to the company tab, you'll see something that says all filters. And from there, you'll select your location. Under the industry, you can choose nonprofit organizations, or if it isn't already added yet, just click on Add Industry.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll be able to select that pretty easily. Then, once you hit Show Results, you'll be given a list of nonprofit organizations in your area.
This is so easy. I love it.
Yeah, it's so easy, I love it because LinkedIn is free too. So you can use this at any time, and you don't have to pay anything for it.
Absolutely. And we know that, volunteering is a great thing to add to not only your resume, but LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
So having it all connected on there is great.
Yeah, it's a really good tool that gives you a great starting point in exploring those volunteer opportunities. And we hope that you use it and you find it helpful. And with that, I'm going to let Rebecca take it away with her interview.
For today's episode, I am excited to have Joan DiPiero with me to talk about volunteering and how it's not only good for your community, but also good for your career. Joan's the Community Engagement Coordinator for College of DuPage. Joan, thank you for joining us here on the Career Ready podcast.
I'm so happy to be here.
All right. So we'll just get started with kind of that question we always love to ask people for their elevator pitch, right? Can you share a bit about your background and how volunteering has played a role in your career journey?
Sure. I have been in education all of my career. I loved education so much, had such a great time in college, I didn't want to stop. But truly, it's because I believe everyone deserves some part of secondary education. You can't just get anywhere from high school. So you either go to community college, a trade school, or a university. And I chose to work in community colleges because I had started as a community college student, understood what it did for me. And in that journey, that's kind of where I started my more successful volunteering. I was raised by volunteers. My parents always volunteered in the community. Everyone's parents did. You know, if you're part of a community, you're doing something for the community. So I knew that that was a good thing to do. It was part of my upbringing. But then to be able to choose where I was going to volunteer and who I was going to volunteer for, that's what I got to do in college. And it opened my eyes to a lot of different things. When I did end up going away to finish my 4-year degree, I was able to volunteer for the American Heart Association. I did some dance-a-thons and those kind of things that they do at a college campus, all those fun things. Yeah, there were really nice things. We had tricycle races, which were very dangerous. But I just promoted that because I majored in journalism and political science. So I didn't have to do the physical stuff. I just did the promotions.
Gotcha.
But again, majoring in that, I equate public service to really being a part of a community. If you're going to be a community member, you need to do some type of public service. And it's almost grassroots and just part of your being to try and help someone. Mm-hmm. So coming out of college and then going back to work in colleges and universities, I saw opportunities for employees. Then when I got to COD, I had the opportunity to work for COD Cares, which is the volunteer arm on campus. That was brought about 12 or 13 years ago through the Shared Governance Council. Came out of an idea that they were talking about, why can't we do something big and splashy, get the students involved, bridge some of our groups. So when you have students, faculty, and staff doing a big project, it makes a big splash in our community. And we have a very large community, and there are a lot of needs to be answered. Mm-hmm. So not a nutshell, but that was a big nugget of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I think you bring up a good point of connecting community colleges to volunteering and helping the community, because we really are, I think, in a lot of ways, the heart of a community. And, everyone here is, again, part of it. And, it's a place where we can really make a difference in the community, inspire others, right?
Agreed. Yeah, as we take the word community in our title very seriously. Yeah. There's different ways to educate and different ways to serve. Yeah. The community's paying us through tax dollars to have these wonderful facilities. We like to give back.
Absolutely. Well, and then just thinking about it with your career journey then, so it sounds too like, for you, yes, your major was in journalism, right? Political science, but you were still volunteering. And then eventually it kind of turned into your career. You put those things together. So that's great.
I'm very lucky. I love my job. And I am very lucky to be helping others. as a career.
Well, I know, we get that a lot in our office when students or community members come to see us and they're talking about what they want to do, right? Almost always it's like unfailing that people are, I want to help people. I want to help people. That's what I want to do, right? And so today what we're talking about is really a very direct way that people can do that. And it can be something that, you could do it for a living, or maybe it's just something you're doing, on the side, I guess is a way to think about it, but it's not really, right? Because that's our whole life, right? Our life isn't just work. Yeah. So, and I think, and they can both help each other, our work life and our regular life, I guess we'll say. So let's talk about specifically with college students. So how can volunteering help college students build skills that are valuable in their careers?
That's a good question, because you don't know what you can give until you start giving that. You don't know that you have different skills that you can share. I am not good at art, but I can work together on a project with others. So what we're going to do with that is, as a college student or as just a community resident, you learn communication skills, team building skills. Very important to work as a team. We got away from that a little bit because we were in the COVID lockdown. But now that we're back together, it's more important than ever to be face to face and working together. I can hammer a nail if you hold that nail for me. If you show me a blueprint, if you show me directions, I can follow directions.
Right.
And it feels way better to be working with others. So I think team building, communications, and then the other thing that you don't really know, or you can't put your finger on it, it's something that my dad told me when he dropped me off at college. You will learn more outside the classroom than in the classroom.
Love it.
So volunteering, especially with a group and with different ages, different ethnicities, you get to understand people. You learn from others. I don't know. I just met somebody from Bangladesh, and I'm working with him on a project, and this is wonderful. And I didn't know I was saying Bangladesh wrong. It's Bangladesh, not Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a Chicagoese accent.
Yeah, right.
But he is telling me so much. I'm learning so much just by working with somebody on a volunteer program.
Love it. So, and I think, when we think about college students who maybe aren't sure where they want to go next, sometimes one of the things we tell them is, well, hey, think about skills that you feel like you're good at, or things that you want to continue to develop. Well, sometimes it's hard to know, like you said, you don't know what you're good at until you start going to try to do it. And volunteering is a great way to get started with that, to see, do I like working with people? Right. Or am I better kind of more behind the scenes? Am I the one that always keeps everybody on task? Right. Or am I the more creative person? And taking those skills can be, paying attention to that can be a great way to kind of identify those areas that you want to do more. Excellent. So then, have you seen specific examples of students landing jobs or internships because of their volunteer experiences?
Yes, I have, actually. There have been two students that I worked with who did a project through COD Cares and then really got involved with the nonprofit that we were working with. So they did end up volunteering more with them. One did get an internship. One took the skills they learned from that volunteer experience and is now offering that or working with another nonprofit organization. So really, you can take anything you've learned and either give it to corporate America or a nonprofit, because service is important no matter what. So if you're an accounting student or a marketing student or graphic design, all the nonprofits that we work with are looking for that type of person, and you can build your skills with them, try them out, see if they fit, stay with a nonprofit agency, or go on to either education or corporate America.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good point, because I think sometimes students have it in their mind that, okay, I go to work for a certain type of company or a certain type of place. But really, most students, unless you're, in healthcare, for example, where, okay, I have to go work for a hospital or, a certain thing, again, like you said, graphic design, accounting, business, logistics, all of those things, nonprofits need those as well. And I love the idea of that being like a good I don't want to say safe space, but like, a place that's maybe more open to having students or having recent graduates come in and work for them. And it's a great place to kind of learn.
Totally. I'm glad you say logistics, because one person I know who is running one of the most successful nonprofits in our area, Humanitarian Service Project, one of our favorite partners, came out of warehousing.
Oh, that's amazing.
She was working in a warehouse. She knew how to move goods and services out and in and where to put things. Humanitarian Service Project is basically a big warehouse full of the things that people need but don't have. There's food, there's paper goods for seniors, there's toys and gifts for the holiday season. And Kristen Senni, who is the executive director, does a wonderful job because she knows how to organize and move things in and out of that warehouse and work with a staff of volunteers that work very, very hard, but she's an organizer.
Yeah.
So that's what she does, and she's a people person too.
Oh, that's so great.
It's great. So she did move out of warehousing into a service industry.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I've had students as well. So, one of the things I want to mention today is one of the things I do is I handle our service learning programs or community-based learning where you are volunteering as part of a class. So we do have some of those classes here at COD, and I know other colleges have it as well. And we've absolutely had students who go and do this volunteering just for this semester. They got to do their 20 hours and then they end up staying. They end up staying and volunteering more, or a lot of times that more than you would think they get hired.
That's wonderful.
Which is great. Yeah. And people, they think they know, that's it. This is the other thing, just kind of going back to what your dad said too, that you'll learn more outside of the classroom. I think sometimes we go to college and we have this thing in our head of like, yep, this is my plan and this is what I'm going to do. But if you open yourself up to these other experiences, especially volunteering, you're going to get exposed to things that you had no idea. And like you said, people that you've never met, and you might start thinking of new ideas. Like, I didn't know I could do this for a living. I didn't know this was a thing, which is great. All right. And in fact, maybe this kind of leads us then to our next question, which is, what are some of the unexpected benefits of volunteering that students might not think about?
You can make this large college smaller by getting together with a smaller group of people. You'll meet others. You either expand or it gets smaller. I can expand my knowledge because I've learned some about new people, but I also have this small core group of people that are going to help me get a job done. You can focus on yourself through that, maybe more self-discovery. There are surprising ideas that are out there in the nonprofit world that you wouldn't have thought of. I was just with somebody today who takes in old bicycles, refurbishes them, and gives them to foster kids in need. There's a lot of kids that when they're taken out of a bad situation and go into foster care, they don't get to take a lot of their things with them. And some of them leave without their bike. Right. And a bike's an important thing to a kid.
Yes, it is. Oh, my gosh.
So it's transportation. So he does that, but in doing that, he has learned more about the foster care system, what the needs are, and how to recycle something that might have ended up in the trash heap.
Okay.
So he's taking a bike that's, kind of rusty, but they know how to fix it at his store.
Yeah.
And then he gives it out to someone who needs it. So there's a lot of surprises that come along with volunteering. I did not know about sunflowers and how they can remediate toxins from the soil. I learned that from volunteering on a project.
Yeah.
I didn't know the needs of some of the agencies that we work with because we always think, hey, I've got a bunch of pencils here. I'm sure you need that. No, they don't need that. They need backpacks or they need food. You have to wait until somebody tells you what they need. You can't decide what they need. So I've learned that about listening. It's very important. That's the big surprising thing that comes out of volunteering is listening.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people think they're like, oh, I'll just give this to these people or we'll do this or I'm sure somebody needs this. But yeah, you really kind of have to listen. Yeah. So that's another good skill. There you go. Love it. All right. How can students identify volunteer opportunities that provide strong career building experiences or maybe some red flags to look out for places that maybe aren't so good?
Well, they can join COD Cares.
Yes, if you're at
activities.
COD, definitely join COD Cares. Absolutely.
They can go through service learning because we do vet the people that
Yes, we do have a list of sites.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the other thing, if you're going to go out and volunteer, the big ones like the American Cancer Society, DuPage PADS, Chicago's Threshold Community. But if you're concerned, if you see something that looks interesting to you, but you're concerned about where your skills may be used or where if you're doing a monetary donation, where that will be used, there are vetting services online that you can check and see if they're a 5-star rated agency.
Yeah, I think was it Charity Navigator is one of them.
Yeah.
But do some internet research,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And and I think, like you said, I think if it's a larger organization, you can probably feel pretty good. If they've been around a while and they're pretty large, have a lot of volunteers. But if it's smaller, they might need your help more, right? And you might have more opportunity with them, but make sure that you're maybe asking some questions and just paying attention, right? If you feel like things are off, then, there's other organizations out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So how can volunteering shape a student's career path in the long run? So, again, maybe, something that you might do in college, you could end up working at a nonprofit, but maybe you don't. But what are some things you can gain from that to take you for your whole life?
Well, a lot of students now, and I think we've talked about this before, you may have talked about it on another podcast, one of the things that people are looking for as they enter the workforce is what I'm going to get out of this job beside a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And right now, in the top 3 is, how responsible is this corporation I'm going to work with? Do they have a corporate responsibility to the community? Are they going to volunteer? A lot of corporations volunteer now or give time. Comcast has a whole day that they set aside to get out to the community. There's Kohl's Care, so Ronald McDonald House. A lot of the corporations, the big names, you hear that they're doing other things. The flip side of that is, say I'm going to be in advertising. I really want to be in marketing. But I realize that my marketing skills might be better used with DuPage PADS or with Bridge Communities, Metropolitan Family Services. Anything you can do in your college career or in your major, it can be translated into the nonprofit world. And it could be profitable for you. There are jobs out there for you.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking as you were saying that, if I'm working at some big advertising agency, right, I might have, I'm starting at the bottom. And I have to work my way up, right? And I only get to do the things, the small little tasks, that they tell me to do. Whereas if you are doing a similar, field, but for a nonprofit, you might have more responsibility right away.
Definitely.
You're going to have more opportunity to do more advanced work. And then if you decided at some point, like, okay, well, maybe I have kids and something's going on and I need to go into maybe a for-profit organization, you've now gained kind of even more skills. Right. And can then take those into that corporate world. I also want to mention networking.
Yep.
Right. I mean, the people that you meet, the volunteers, the other volunteers, the staff, the clients you're working with are all people who could be helpful to you in figuring out what you want to do and where you want to go and those opportunities. And you can do it for them, too.
Yeah. And I would recommend that students get on junior boards.
Oh, excellent.
They are looking for
excellent idea.
Yeah, they're looking for junior boards, too. That's a volunteer. There's a big time commitment. You may have to move things around a little bit, but just to be on a junior board for one of the larger nonprofits, to be with McDonald's, to be with even chambers of commerce. Again, it's networking, but it's also bringing your skill set to the table and offering it in a different way. There's a time commitment there, but it's very important.
And that's something I think I never thought of. I never knew about that as a, college student or a young person where, there's this idea of not just, direct service, right? But there are other ways to serve. And yeah, so, we always heard a company has a board of directors, right? But nonprofits, they also do, right? And then oftentimes they will, like you said, have a junior board with younger professionals. And again, what a great way to get exposure to this world and like you said, to volunteer. And that also goes with working in politics or in local government or or civic organizations for your town, right? To be in the library or your arts foundation or something like that. So if you've got an interest, right, there's a place to go.
Right. Don't be afraid to run for an office in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to start serving if you have that propensity. Being on a board or even a junior board builds your leadership skills. That looks great on your resume.
Great point.
You may have put together the local fundraiser or the local food drive. Mm-hmm. Get involved with that. Again, it looks great on your resume. As a college student, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing that. It's really something you should be involved with.
Yeah. No, and thanks for mentioning that too, as far as this is great on your resume. It's great for an interview. I mean, when you're wanting to talk about experiences and what you can do, nothing better. Yeah. And we absolutely have employers tell us they want students that didn't just go to school. Right. They want students that are involved is often the word that they use, especially for internships. And you can't get more involved than volunteer work.
That is for sure. And it doesn't discriminate against age, abilities, disabilities. Mm-hmm. I have an ex-COD student who volunteers with me for a lot of things, and she's legally blind. Mm-hmm. But she's able to do so much.
Yeah.
She's always out there doing things.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then any advice you'd have for students who maybe are hesitant to get involved in volunteer work?
If they feel uncomfortable because they may not know anyone, bring a friend.
Oh, great.
Because as
great
a volunteer coordinator, I would love to see 2 for 1.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
This is great. She brought somebody with her. This is fantastic. I have 2 more bodies here. So yeah, don't worry about bringing somebody along with you. Mm-hmm. If you are in education or you're thinking about going into education, but you're not sure if you can work with kids, volunteer to be a tutor or read to kids through the Glen Ellen Children's Resource Center. There are lots of things out there that will use your smaller talents to your advantage.
Sure.
And you're really helping somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that idea. Yeah, because I like I said, I think it is intimidating for people, or they may think, oh, I've never worked with someone with disabilities before, so I don't know that I can add, to this, or that I would know what to do. But a lot of places, do they do like orientations or trainings for volunteers?
Yeah, there are agencies who do training if you're going to be doing something specific.
Yeah,
like the suicide helpline or the domestic helpline. And then there are ones that have trained us because we've gone to work with Helping Hands in LaGrange. Mm-hmm. And they gave us a little bit of training on that. If you go to pack food at Feed My Starving Children, you get a little training session about how you're going to be packing the food because it's very specific. Mm-hmm. And then you get the debrief, and they let you know where your food's going, what you just did is making an impact. This is how many lives you're going to be saving. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, here's what it tastes like. So that's always fun.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, that's great. Well, anything else you'd like to share about volunteering here at the College of DuPage or anywhere a student might be?
Just to make sure that you do get involved, that you take that first step. It doesn't have to be a long commitment. Mm-hmm. If you do things with COD Cares, it's usually an hour to maybe 3 hours at the most. We do a lot of one-offs. We do a lot of pop-ups on campus. So you can do, it's like a drive-by taste test kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Look for your passion. If you are interested in robotics, you can work with students who are building a robot. If you are interested in politics, get involved with our student life group and the COD votes. Mm-hmm. I do remember just recently a student came to work with us for the mobile market that we have through Northern Illinois Food Bank. Mm-hmm. And he stopped in and we were talking a little bit, and he's in IT. He's majoring in computers. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he was going to do specifically, but it sounded like he wasn't real sure. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. And the next semester I saw him, he was working with COD votes. And then the next time I saw him, he was doing other grassroots projects. And what he found out was he really wasn't intrigued by IT as much as he thought he would be.
Yeah.
But he wasn't ready to switch majors because he realized what he can do with his skill set helped every one of these organizations he was volunteering for. He can do stats for the COD votes.
Right.
He was helping us with the food pantry and figuring out where we were going to put things. He knows how to market. So all his skill set was really, he had this deep need to serve others, but he had the skills to do so, skills that we don't have. So take what you have and get it out there, put it out there to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always say, when I talk to accounting majors, I say, you can do accounting for anyone. You know what I mean? It's like, if you really like movies, you can go into movies, but, all these organizations, any group that needs support out there, which is most of us, right? It has a need, like you said, for all the skills. So, yeah. And then often people maybe don't think about going there and using those skills. So it's important. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I love it too, because you said, start with an hour, start with a couple hours, try a different, couple different things. And then, you might find that you want to keep going.
Yeah. The altruism that we have is wonderful. But there's one thing that you get out of volunteering that I don't want to say it's number one, but just seeing somebody's face when you give them that coat that they needed. Sharing food, being able to make an impact and seeing it. Don't just give to an organization, drop some cans of soup in the box and then leave.
Right.
Stick around or deliver it and see what a difference you can make.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. To, get out there and really, see what you're doing instead of just dropping it off at Salvation Army or whatever, which is fine. It's always good. But, it helps to actually see kind of on the other side too. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And hopefully all of you listening are inspired to volunteer.
Rebecca, thanks for that great interview. I learned so much and I'm really inspired to go volunteer now. I feel like every time I listen to interviews, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do that now.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I felt very like, oh, I should probably do this more.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to bring up a few points with you. So I really liked when Joan was talking about how volunteering allows you to meet different people. So I know when I was volunteering, I did it at a women's shelter, like when I was in college, and it just made me feel really connected to the community. So I'm glad that she brought that up because you can really meet different people from various walks of life.
Absolutely. I think it exposes you sometimes too to maybe a world that you wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. For me, when I was in college, I volunteered to tutor inmates at the jail. So these were people that were in trial or awaiting trial, but were trying to get their GEDs or, whatever they were working on. And again, that's just not a population that I really had ever worked with before. And it is. You just meet people that you wouldn't think to know, and you get to know the community just that much better.
Yeah, that's so interesting. How was that experience?
It was good. I got my nickname Red while I was there. So
I remember you telling me that story, and I'm like, I love that.
It was good.
And I also really liked how Joan brought up the success story of someone that she knows being in a warehouse and then from there transitioning to the nonprofit world. So I probably say this all the time when we're on the podcast, but that just shows transferable skills, right?
Absolutely.
So I just thought it was really cool to hear that story and to know that person is thriving in that role and they can use their organization skills to basically organize the warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely. There is something to be said for taking your skills in the for-profit world and transferring them into the nonprofit, whether that's just, on the weekends or as a full-time job, and vice versa. That you can really learn a lot in nonprofits that you can bring to your corporate world that they maybe wouldn't have thought of. Right? It's that diverse experience. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah. And I thought it was good that Joan also brought up, too, for example, if you're wanting to work in education, maybe you want to be an elementary education teacher, reading to small children and seeing how that works out for you. So I think there was just a great connection between volunteering and then connecting it to your career path, too.
Right. Before, maybe spending 4 years studying something, thinking, oh yeah, for sure. I want to work with little kids
Right.
and all day, every day. And then you start, and then, you, a lot of times you don't do your student teaching until towards the end of your education. So if you wait, then you may not realize like, oh, maybe that's not what I want. Or maybe you just realize you want to aim for a different age group or something like that. So no, I think in general, volunteering can absolutely is a great, easy way to check out different career paths. And then it gives you something to put on your resume.
Right. And I do like that she mentioned that it's not a long-term commitment. Like
Good point.
You could literally volunteer for 1 hour and you've served your community in some way.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, getting a job or doing an internship even, that is a bigger commitment. And maybe you have to work, right, to make money, to be in school. But hey, could you give up an hour? Could you give up a couple hours a week even? That seems maybe more manageable as a way to get some of that experience without having to give up the other things that you need to do for your life. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, it was a fun episode, and I hope that all of our listeners get out there.
Yeah, definitely go volunteer, go help out your community. Thanks to all of our listeners, and special thanks again to Joan DiPiero for joining us on the podcast. We hope you feel more knowledgeable about volunteering in your career, and be sure to join us for our next episode as we talk about career research with AI. And remember, if you do have a question for us, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu or on social media @COD Career Center, and you may hear the answer in a future episode.